mani padme hum, om mani padme hum, om mani padme hum, om mani padme hum.
Hello, Meng.
Hello. How are you, Venerable?
I'm good. And how are you?
I am subject to old age, sickness, and death, but otherwise I'm great.
Yeah, me too.
Friends, welcome to episode 20 of Vibe with Venerables, 1 hour of live Dharma and dialogue where you get to talk directly to a respected Venerable. I'm Meng, co-founder of Buddhism-dot-net and your host. Today, we are joined again by the revered and beloved Venerable Thubten Chodron, abbess and founder of Saraswati Abbey, prolific author, an overall awesome teacher, and essentially a breathing, walking saint. That's all. And one thing that makes Venerable Chodron awesome is her ability to stay calm when things go wrong. And when trying to build an abbey from scratch, things go wrong a lot. And Venerable Chodron will be showing us how we can maintain equanimity in our lives, whether or not we're trying to build a new abbey. So with that, our Venerable will speak for roughly 30 minutes and then answer your questions live. And as a reminder, this session will be recorded and uploaded on the YouTube. And if you're comfortable doing so, we'd like to invite you to turn on your camera so that Venerable can see your lovely faces on the screen in front of her. And she loves that. She loves seeing faces. Yes.
Yes.
With that, Venerable, can we invite you to open with a prayer?
Okay.
I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger.
So let's take a minute, come back to your breath, just to let the mind calm for a minute. And then let's take a minute and cultivate our motivation. So this series of talks has been on the four immeasurables of compassion, joy, and equanimity. And so it's good as much as possible to generate those four thoughts as our motivation for sharing the Dharma today. So these are not abstract thoughts. They are they apply very clearly to our lives and the people in our lives. And can we have an attitude of love towards others, wanting them to have happiness in its causes? Let's cultivate compassion, wanting them to be free of misery and its causes. Cultivate joy, rejoicing in others' virtue. And equanimity, not being attached to some and having anger and aversion to others, but to be able to have love, compassion, and joy for all sentient beings equally. So take a moment and just imbue that in your mind as our motivation for sharing the Dharma. Okay.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So when you teach the four immeasurables in the Pali tradition, they often describe it as a way of raising a child, your attitudes when you raise a child.
Okay, so we had the
Picture
opportunity to
coming.
practice
Okay, good.
equanimity.
Good. So having having our general attitude towards whoever we meet be one of wishing them well. Yeah. Now, can we do that? Or do we come into things with tons of opinions? Yeah. But to really try, wish the sentient beings well. Then when we see them making mistakes or, bringing suffering upon themselves, causing suffering to each other, experiencing the result of the suffering result of karma previously created, then to have compassion, wishing them to be free of that suffering. Yeah. So far, so good. Yeah. Now, joy. That means when others create virtue, when they have opportunities, when they do really good things, that we really rejoice together with them, yeah, in their happiness. Mm-hmm. But that means we can't compete with others. And we tend to, evaluate ourselves and others, yeah, who we like, who we don't like, who we're rooting for. And if somebody's better than us, we don't like it. If we're better than them, we put our nose up in the air. Okay, so this joy really cuts all of that. And it enables us just to, to look at what is in somebody else's life and don't insert ourselves into it. Yeah, just rejoice when they have opportunities, when they have whatever, okay? And then the last one, which is our topic today, is equanimity. And so in that series, as it's described in the Pali tradition, then equanimity is not, is having a more of a neutral attitude, not favoring some people because you like them, and distancing other people because you don't like them. Yeah. We do this all the time, don't we? Yeah. Because we have opinions about everybody, and I like and I don't like, and this person agrees with me and this person doesn't agree with me. And so the people that we like, we want to do things for them. They're our friends. What we were doing in a very impolite way. Okay? Now, how do you react? Okay, well, first of all, somebody did something I don't like. And what they did was impolite. And I'm sure if you all saw the pictures too, you would agree with me. Yeah? Now, do we have to hate the people who did that? We don't even know them. Yeah? And people who do that kind of thing somehow think that they're going to be happy interrupting other people's things with vulgar images. They think they're going to be happy. Yeah. And so they look so happy when they're doing these things in the images. Okay, so that means somebody's pretty confused, isn't it? Doesn't it? That they think that interrupting others' virtuous activities, being vulgar, is going to bring them happiness. Yeah, they're pretty confused. And they must be pretty unhappy in their own lives and have a very weird idea of happiness if they think that acting like that is going to make them happy. So rather than dislike those people, criticize the behavior is inappropriate, but the person and the behavior are different, and we can have compassion for people who act like that. Okay? Now, next time they come around, then we have to have equanimity. Okay, so there's different kinds of equanimity. That word means different things in different contexts. There's the feeling of equanimity when there's not the feeling of happiness and there's not, or pleasure, and there's not the feeling of suffering or pain. So an equal feeling. Yeah, there's that. That's not the one that's in the four measurables. There's a couple of, and there's the equanimity in the fourth dhyana. And there, that equanimity is when the mind and the mental factors are very balanced, in a way that makes that a very good meditative state for meditating on emptiness. So that's another kind of equanimity. The kind in the four immeasurables, there's kind of two ways to look at it, okay? And we'll see in the four measurables that we recited at the beginning of this talk, first was love, then was compassion, then joy. Equanimity was last. Yeah. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. And so there we're wishing for all sentient beings, to be free of bias, attachment, and anger. We're wishing it for everybody. Now, wishing it for everybody and bringing that about is, something everybody has to do with their own mind, okay? And that always, of course, starts out with, well, what is the value of cultivating that, of wanting others to have equanimity, okay? Well, if people have equanimity and they're free of bias, attachment, and anger, the government shutdown that's happening in the US would have been quickly resolved and probably wouldn't have happened at all, because instead of people digging their heels into their own position, they would have talked, and, instead of one side blaming the other and that side blaming the other and the other one for the shutdown, they would have come together and resolved this. Okay, so you can see, yeah, we wish others to have equanimity. It creates, a much nicer society. I mean, if there were equanimity, then, again, what's happening in the Middle East, what's happening between Russia and Ukraine, yeah, there wouldn't be so much hatred. There wouldn't be so much, wish on, on everybody's part to destroy the other one. They would have, an equal attitude, yeah, that is not biased. Okay, so in the case of the Middle East, the food would go to Israel and the food would go to Gaza, and everybody would have enough to eat. Okay, in the case of Russia and Ukraine, it's not that they would throw equal number of bombs at each other and equal number of drones at each other, but that they would, share whatever it is that each side is trying to have. Yeah. Okay, then, so that's one way that equanimity is, one presentation of the four immeasurables. There's another one in the Mahāyāna tradition where you start out with equanimity, and then you go to love, compassion, and the last one is joy. So it's a different order. Instead of being at the end, equanimity is the first one. Yeah. Now this equanimity is actually one that incorporates the main steps in the Mahāyāna tradition of generating bodhicitta, called the 7 causes and 1 effect. Okay, and so you start out with equanimity, and here, yes, it starts out equanimity between friend and enemy. Then you have to add stranger, yeah, because the near enemy of equanimity is apathy, which is how we usually feel towards strangers. Yeah, if you're going to generate bodhicitta, the aspiration for awakening, so that you can really benefit sentient beings most effectively, yeah, then you have to get over that, yeah. And friend, enemy, stranger, you have equal feelings towards all of them, not favoring any of them. Okay, that's how it starts. Then your equanimity gets bumped up again, yeah, to what they call equalizing equalizing self and others. So now it's no longer equalizing friend, enemy, and stranger, who are all external people, while you sit there. You make them all equal, but who's still most important? Me, me. So, yeah, in here, you have to put yourself in the mix, yeah, and have an equal feeling towards friend, enemy, stranger, self, and others. Okay, this is even harder, yeah, because, our self-centered attitude, it rules the nest. It rules our life. Who do we always think about first? Who's most important in our lives? Whose suffering hurts more than anybody else's? Who should always get their way? Well, just coincidentally, me. Yeah? Why? Because I'm me. And others are not so important because they're other. So, yeah, okay. Yeah, friend, enemy, stranger, they're all equal. But first, I do things for myself, please myself, get myself happy, do my own practice, make everything good for my practice, and then I'll take care of others. Okay? So the equanimity, equalizing self and others, is really a big step, and it touches so directly on that self-centeredness. Yeah. So to generate that, I think one way is to ask her, well, there's different ways. There's, in fact, a whole 9-point meditation on it, which I can't go into because Meng is going to interrupt me in a few minutes and say I've talked long enough. But I have equanimity towards you, Meng. It's okay. I talked too long last time, so you can cut me off this time. Okay. So just the label I and others, we start out questioning that. Yeah. I is here, others is there. Yeah. We live in a place, we live off of Spring Valley Road. So we're on one side of the valley and there's the other side of the valley. Okay. So our side of the valley is this side. And over there is that side. Now, of course, if you walk over to that side and you look here, yeah, if you can imagine going over to that side, then you point your finger and, oh, that side and this side. So this and that are not inherently existent in the side of the valley. It depends on your perspective. Okay, there's no, yeah, this side of the valley, that side of the valley, this side of the valley, that side of the valley. So it goes with self and others, I and others. But yeah, all of you people think I when you refer to yourself, and you consider me as other. Don't you? Yeah, that's why you don't listen to anything I say. Because I'm other, you know. So, you know, the I and other, it's just a matter of perspective. There's nothing here in this, yeah, that is inherently I and therefore more important than anybody else. And similarly, from your perspective, when you say I, yeah, there's nothing from your I, the perspective of your I, that makes that I more important. And this I, something to be, you know, just ignored. Yeah. So, you know, really thinking about that and how, you know, because we think I, and I is the most important thing in our life, isn't it? Yeah, protecting ourselves physically, protecting ourselves mentally, protecting ourselves emotionally, our happiness, our suffering, and then to think, you know, that's only a matter of perspective because every other being, yeah, on this call in this room on this planet thinks I. And who am I to say your I is less important when, from your perspective, my I is negligible? Okay, so there, that really stretches our mind. When we then think about love, we want sentient beings to have happiness and its causes. Yeah, that doesn't just mean us, and it doesn't just mean others. Yeah, it's everybody, and it's everybody equally. Yeah. So this is a really good thing to keep in mind, as we go through the day and, start discriminating. I like, I don't like, I approve, I don't approve. Okay. Yeah. Now, does that mean that we don't have any opinions at all? Does that mean, the people that just showed those very vulgar pictures are, they want happiness just as bad as I do, and they're worthy of happiness just as bad as I am. And so we're going to let them show those pictures because that makes them happy, and I want all sentient beings to be happy. Okay, no, that's not how you practice the four immeasurables. Yeah, you want the person to be happy, but that behavior is not really leading to their happiness. Yeah, that behavior is creating negative karma, and they will experience the result of that. So when we want sentient beings to be happy, it's not just so that they can have some chocolate now and, forget about what happens after. Yeah, it's not just thinking temporary happiness, it's thinking long-term happiness. Yeah? So yes, they deserve happiness, they're worthy of happiness, but what they're doing to get it? No. Okay. So, it's an interesting thing to do with yourself as, for example, we live in community, or many of the people, online, you work in jobs, okay? So there's always tasks to do. And, I could do them or somebody else could do them. Well, the nice tasks I'll do, and the ones that are difficult, other people can do. Okay, so here, practicing equanimity is, well, is that really good? Yeah, that I get to do the things that everybody likes, and other people have to do the things that everybody doesn't like. Now, okay, it could be a situation where I like one thing and the other person likes another thing, in which case you cooperate so each person can do the task that they like. But there are other tasks where everybody wants the easy one and nobody wants the hard one, okay? And in those, to stop and ask ourselves, why am I more important? Yeah, if I say, I am more important, well, that's the same words that other people say. They all say, I am most important. I want to do this task. Yeah, you can have the difficult ones. So why do I side with this eye and not with the other eye? When they're all equal in being I, in being persons. Yeah, and we're saying we want all sentient beings to have happiness and its causes, and all sentient beings to be free of suffering and its causes. And we're working for the benefit of all sentient beings. Yeah. So we can't have this discrimination between I and other as I'm more important and you're secondary. Yeah. So this is very good to keep this in mind during the day as you're going through things. Yeah. And when there's, dishes to do, chores to do. Yeah. Even when you're discussing with somebody, planning something, you want to do it one way, they want to do it another way. Well, why do I have to get my way? Yeah. Well, my idea is best. Well, but have we actually considered the other person's idea? Or are we just saying it's someone else's idea, so automatically it's not very good? It's not as good as my idea. Okay. So we have to, slow down because we shouldn't think that ideas are people or that actions are people. Yeah. Ideas are themselves. It could be one person's idea or the other or both of their ideas. Yeah, we shouldn't judge ideas based on who's saying them. Yeah. Oh, I don't like that person. So every idea they propose is bad. Yeah. Okay. So try and keep that in mind. That's another meaning of equanimity that is really quite important because you see, we can't really generate full love and full compassion if we don't have that kind of equanimity between self and others. Yeah. And then when you come to generate bodhicitta, I aspire to become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. Am I really thinking I aspire to become a Buddha for my own sake and forget everybody else? Yeah, if there's that thought in our mind, there's no bodhicitta. Okay, so that's why equanimity comes at the beginning, because we really have to cultivate that in order to properly cultivate love, compassion, and joy. Okay, Meng, I only
Yes.
talked 8 or 9 minutes too long.
Well, from you is never too
Yeah.
long, but thank
Do you
you.
approve
Yes.
of me now?
Okay, I always approve of you, Venerable.
Oh, you shouldn't because sometimes I'm naughty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe when I catch you naughty one time.
Okay.
Okay, friends, we have now entered the discussion session. If you have any questions for Venerable, you can use the hand raising function on Zoom, and I will invite you to unmute yourself. And while we're waiting, Venerable, I have a question. So
Mm-hmm.
I actually tried practicing what you taught. It's very profound. The whole idea that self and others are equal, right, with equanimous relationship. And I found it very hard. And the one reason I found it very hard, I thought about why is it so hard? And the one reason is because of the vividness of sensation. So what does that mean? So when I experience pain, right, I experience it very vividly, but when I see somebody else experiencing the same pain, I experience it less vividly. And it's the
Yeah.
same with joy, that when I see you eat sushi, I have less vivid joy than when I eat sushi. So
Mm-hmm.
given the stark difference in the vividness of sensation, how do we think about equanimity of self and others?
Okay. This is where we get into talking about selflessness. If I get stung by a bee, it hurts more than if somebody else gets stung by a bee.
Mm,
Okay. But here, why do I treasure, what is this body? Yeah. What's the relationship of this body to I and the relationship of that body to the other I? Okay. This body is one of the 5 aggregates together with my 4 mental aggregates, that it's dependent on these 5 aggregates that the designation I comes. Yeah, that's fine. Designate I. But ignorance is not satisfied with that. And that I, that is designated in dependence on this body and mind, inherently existent. It's a real I. Yeah, and it's more important than anybody else's I, and it has to be happy at all times, and that bee just took away its happiness. Okay? Whereas when I look at somebody else, you got stung by a bee, well, I'm labeling you or other in dependence on your 5 aggregates. But from your viewpoint, those 5 aggregates are I, and those are the ones that you grasp as most important. Okay? So why do we feel, our own suffering more important? Because of self-grasping ignorance, which is the root of samsara. Okay? So when we start to challenge who's more important, then it makes us look at, how do how do I think of this thing? Yeah, if I just look, it's just some glob of vegetable goo. That's all. Yeah, what makes it me, mine, my important? My mind makes that. Yeah. But from your viewpoint, this, it's vegetable goo and that's all. You don't label it I or mine. So it's not just the labeling process, it's the grasping at the inherent existence that causes the problem.
So if we stop
Okay.
grasping onto the inherent existence of selfness, does the issue of vividness of sensation, does that become less and less over time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Because they say, well, you remember the story in the sutra when there was a famine and all the monks had to eat was like fodder from cows. Yeah. The Buddha ate the fodder from cows. It didn't bother him at all. It tasted delicious. Yeah. Because there was no self-grasping at all. From the viewpoint of the other monks, I was like, you just look at the fodder without even tasting it. And, ew, that's terrible. I don't want it. Okay.
Wow. That what you just said, Venerable, it sounds very profound because I was under the impression that equanimity towards the sensations leads to the releasing of selfness. But what you're saying is the other way is also true. The releasing of selfness leads to the equanimity towards sensations.
Yeah. I think equanimity towards sensations helps you not grasp so much, but you don't cut off the grasping until there's the realization of selflessness.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good. And while we're waiting for another question, I have another one, Venerable, if you don't mind. So, so just now during this session, we had an opportunity to practice equanimity ourselves because we were just here having a nice time doing Dharma talk, and then there are like naughty pictures, right? And so, I I practice, in my practice, I calm my breath and so on. So I think I was able to do this. My question to you, Venerable, is to me, the hardest part actually is when I feel that I get attacked because I'm Buddhist, and also that Buddhism gets attacked. And so in these cases, what should we do?
Okay. So you identify, I'm Buddhist. And then somebody says, Buddhism, you guys don't believe in God. You just worship idols. You don't know what you're talking about, and you're all going to hell. Yeah, I've been told that. So, yeah, the idea is then Buddhism is my religion. So this grasping not only at I, but at mine. Yeah, you know that wrong view? Yeah,
Yes.
grasping at I and mine. So my religion. Shantideva, the 8th century Indian sage, in his book, Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, in chapter 6 on fortitude or patience, he talks about that, that because people tend, they're criticizing the Dharma. I've got to defend the Dharma. I've got to make sure those people they don't have those wrong conceptions and they don't spread those bad things. And it's terrible. Yeah. And yeah, he goes into this whole thing about, the Dharma itself is not hurt. Yeah. What is the Dharma? Yeah. The ultimate Dharma, true paths and true cessations. Yeah. That's called the realizational Dharma. And then you have the transmitted Dharma, the scriptures. Yeah. None of those, whether it's the realizational Dharma or the transmitted Dharma, none of those suffer. Yeah. The true paths and true cessations in the minds of Aryas and Arhats and Buddhas, they don't suffer. So, why do we get so angry about it? The Dharma is still the Dharma. It's still pure. It's still worthwhile. We don't have to defend ourselves to other people who criticize it. The way I view it is it's a free world. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Yeah. And people have different opinions than me. And also, in terms of religion, different people find different religions more valuable to them. And so whatever religion somebody follows, if it helps them be a kinder person, then I want to support them in practicing that religion. Yeah. It has nothing, I don't need, again, to insert I in there. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you, Venerable. We have a question from Dr. Chang. Dr. Chang, please unmute yourself.
Hello. I have two questions. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Please ask one question at a time. Okay?
Yes. First question is how I can be more equanimous when I am very anxious, because I many times have lots of anxiety, feeling fear that what if my behavior might be harmful for someone. For example, now I just have moved to a new house, and when I unpack my stuff, some boxes became moldy because it was humid summer. And then, wow, immediately I have a fear about, wow, what if this mold can spread to other places by, for example, me cleaning up the mold, and then this clothes may have some mold spores or powders, and then if I run it in the laundry machine, maybe other people who use the same laundry machine might be impacted. So I end up spending so much time sanitizing every single thing.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
have lots of fear and anxiety.
Yes. And if you look, what's going on in your mind when you're anxious? Your mind is dreaming up all sorts of things that are unlikely to happen or that are blatantly inaccurate. Yeah. So when, anxiety just is like, and suddenly, with your anxiety, the whole world is going to be covered in mold. And, do you see it? Do you feel, I see mold on you. It came from Singapore. Oh, you know, be careful. We better yet let the border, ice know about this so that they can kick out the mold. No mold is allowed in the US. Yeah, Trump will have a fit. Yeah, and slam and put more tariffs on Singapore because of it. Is that going to happen? I
No.
don't think so. Okay. So, when we're falling into anxiety, to just stop and look at the thoughts that are racing in our mind and ask ourselves, is that likely to happen? And chances are, if you are, have any contact with conventional reality, it's like, no, that is very unlikely to happen. But then one part of your mind says, yes, unlikely, but it still could happen. And then you ask
Yes.
yourself, yeah, then you ask yourself, if it did happen, yeah, do I have resources to deal with it? Well, yes, I have friends and family, and they're all going to come over with detergent and disinfectant, and we're going to do the whole flat together, and all the mold is gone. I'm not in this alone. There are resources I can draw on. Yeah, right? Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
be in Singapore in December. I'll come and help you with the mold. Okay. Yeah. So you aren't alone in this. And I'll tell you something too. When I lived in Seattle, yeah, one closet in the flat where I lived had mold.
So what do you do?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I said hello. I didn't go in that closet very much, so I actually didn't discover it until I had lived there for quite a long time. And I discovered it when I was about to leave. Yeah. So I was very kind and I left it for the owner to clean up. No, I think I did a little bit of cleaning myself. Okay. It's not. And when I lived in India, oh my goodness, in monsoon rain, everything smells like mold and mildew. So when it stops raining, you put it all out in the sun, all your clothes, all your bedding, you spread it all out in the sun, and then the sun, kills the mold and the mildew. Yeah. So don't invent problems. Yeah. I think we have enough problems already. Yeah. We don't need to invent some more.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's
Okay.
really helpful because I thought like, what if I am spreading the mold to other people and then like I felt out of control, but I remember that other people also have resources to deal with that, like the
Yeah.
support from other people. Yeah, thank you so much.
Mhm.
I'll skip my second
Yeah.
question because there is another person.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Thank
Sin.
you.
Okay. Sin, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself.
Dear Venerable,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
my question will be when we talk about equanimity, and I also heard about saying that to do or not to do is the same. So sometimes when I have choices in front of me, like to do A or to do B, and I was like not doing and making any choices, you know. So I wasn't like respond to A or B. In the end, it's like I am doing nothing. So my question is, when we talk about equanimity or to do or not to do is the same, how can we identify or distinguish, running away from what we should do, instead, yeah, I,
Okay, so I'm
thank you.
not familiar with this saying that to do or not to do is the same. Yeah,
It's like from the for my personal understanding, it's like from the whole, to do or not to do. Actually, we don't affect anything from the whole. So sometimes, that thoughts a little bit trigger me to
yeah,
make
no,
decisions.
when we do things, our actions affect things. Yeah.
Yeah,
And not doing is also a choice. It's also an action.
yeah.
Yeah. We're
Mm-hmm.
acting all the time. So it's not to do or not to do are equal and I'm not going to do or not do. I'm going to do some third kind of not doing. That just gets you pretty confused, okay? Because whether you do an action, do you do this or you do that or you do nothing, all three are going to, you're making choices, you're making decisions, and they're going to have results. Yeah. So how do we discern what is good to do, what is valuable when we're faced with a decision? So one thing I think is to look at each choice and ask ourselves, if I do that, if I follow that path, is there any harm that's going to happen to myself or others? Yeah. So if what I'm doing is causing harm to others because I have a negative motivation and it's harming myself because I'm creating negative karma, then don't do that. Okay, then I look at the other choice and I examine in the same way. And then however many choices there are, I have to see, because I make one of the criteria that I use for making choices is what benefits myself and others, yeah, in terms of creating virtue, and what does no harm either to myself or others. Yeah, so that's one criteria I use. Yeah, some choices, it's like same, it doesn't matter what it is. Yeah, but some choices you can really see there's going to be not. I don't look so much in terms of short-term harm or benefit, but long-term harm and benefit. Okay, so yeah, analyzing things in that way and then making a decision. Does that help?
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. There is a Gandhi quote I found very inspiring, which is Gandhi says, "What you do is not important. What is important is the fact that you're doing it."
Huh?
So the doing itself is the thing that's important.
I think your motivation is what's important.
Mm. Yes.
Yeah.
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 Mm.
Because you can do one action with a virtuous motivation. You can do the same action with a non-virtuous motivation. So it's
True.
not the action that's important. It's
Yeah.
why you're doing it, what your intention is.
Yes. Thank you,
Yeah.
Venerable. So Venerable, unfortunately, that's all we have time for. I know you're having so much fun, but can you please lead us in a closing dedication and blessing?
Okay.
Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay.
My friends, let's bow to our teacher.
Mm.
Thank you, Venerable, for being with us. This recording will be uploaded on YouTube later on the Buddhism-dot-net channel. So please like and subscribe. It helps us a lot. And friends, I would like to bring back a very beautiful ancient tradition. So in the old days, it was very difficult to meet a great master. And if you met one, what you would do is you will formally request for teachings. And this being our last session with Venerable Chodron this year, I like to practice this tradition. And if you like to, you can join me by just joining your palms like this. Venerable Chodron, on behalf of the Buddhism-dot-net community, we would like to humbly ask you to teach us again next year. We will be pleased if you will accept our humble request.
Okay. I will happily accept your request on the condition that if I show up to do it, you also have to show up to listen. Okay? So you can't just request and then go to sleep when it's time for the course. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Venerable. We are honored and will receive your kindness with great gratitude. Thank you.
Okay.
And with
It's
that,
been,
we have Venerable Chodron next year. Yay!
okay. It's been very nice to do these series of short talks, and other people in the Abbey have done them too. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Again, also very importantly, my friends, if you are inspired to practice dana or generosity towards Venerable Chodron, please donate directly to Sarvasti Abbey. We'll be sharing the link by chat and by email. And next week, Venerable Lamsel will return to continue teaching us about equanimity. With that, thank you, my friends, and thank you, Venerable Chodron.